Welcome to the All About You podcast. My name is Sheila and I am your host. In this podcast, I invite people to tell their stories of their travels, hobbies, and passions. These podcasts are also now available on my All About You YouTube channel. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story. Welcome to the All About You podcast. And my guest today is Ansa from the US. And she's an author and a storyteller. And today we are talking all things dating, the good, the bad, and I'm sure the ugly. Ansa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, Ansa, I'm so looking forward to this podcast. But first of all, if you would like to introduce yourself, because you wear a few hats, Ansa.
Yes, that's true. So, of course, as you said, my name is Ansa. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I am a writer, a storyteller. My main job is a brand strategist. So I help businesses learn to talk about themselves. But really, what I do most of the time is storytelling. So I recently won a Moth Storytelling Champion storytelling show. I performed at the Kennedy Center here in Washington, D.C. recently, doing a story about being fat and dating. And what else? What else do I do? Oh, I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book about my dating stories.
Wow. So it seems, Ansa, you've got quite a few things on your plate.
Yes, I'm very, very busy, but most of the time I'm just having fun.
Well, that's the main thing. Okay, so let's talk about dating. Dating has changed considerably over the years since social media came about. So I've heard of Tinder, I've heard of dating apps, but I've been out of the dating pool and I have to say very happily married for quite some time. So this is going to be a real education to me. And the fact that you are doing stand-up talks in the Kennedy Center just blows my mind. So tell us more, Ansa.
So my background and why I talk about dating is that, it's not a new topic to talk about dating, right? But from my perspective as a Black woman in the US, I'm also a plus size woman. I don't hear a lot of fun dating stories from people who look like me. And we are having fun out here and we are dealing with all the fun and the drama, but also the terrible dating. And so I started to really think about dating after my divorce. So I was married relatively young in my early 20s. And I started this relationship that lasted for about 10 years. So I was divorced by the time I was 28 and I had not dated anyone else in my life. So I was nearly 30 and everyone just said, get on the apps. So I was very naive and I got on the apps and I'm swiping on everyone and I just went out with everyone because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. Come to find out you can't have standards. And I was just dating everyone and I was going home with everyone. And the next day I'd say, oh yeah, I'm dating this other person. And people would say, that's not dating. You're just sleeping around. And I said, oh, I thought that was dating. So finally I met someone. We started a great relationship. We got engaged, but I was less naive this time around. And I realized that I wanted to be happy more than I wanted to be in a relationship. So I ended that relationship and started dating again in the last year or so. It's been a wild ride. I think I'm done with dating apps. I was talking to a friend recently about the difference between dating and dating apps. If I could meet someone out at a pottery class or a concert, that would be lovely. But seeking someone through a system like dating apps has been quite tragic, actually.
And so there's a couple of points I'd like to pick through here. You were in a long-term relationship and then you got divorced. That whole scenario of then going back into the dating pool a decade after, must have been huge to start with. I mean, where would you start? And as you say, dating apps seem to be the thing. Right, I just want to see the person's face, a little bit about them. Yes, no, move on to the next one. So I guess you were coming back into dating, all the rules had changed, social media had arrived, and that must have been pretty scary.
It was daunting because I think that when you're dating before dating apps, maybe you meet someone in high school. If you don't meet them in high school, you meet them in college. If you don't meet them in college, you meet them at work. If you don't meet them at work, maybe you meet them at a hobby. And if you don't meet them at a hobby, then you're out of options, right? And so you go to dating apps because where else are you going to organically meet people? And I thought my life was settled because I met someone in high school. And so I was done. I was one of the lucky people who didn't even have to think about that. So when I was divorced at nearly 30, I really had a panic about, well, okay, I didn't meet anyone in college because I was in a relationship. I didn't meet anyone at work because I was in a relationship. And now all of those opportunities are gone. So it was really scary. And I was going on dates with people thinking, oh, they really like me. And in reality, I was not just as naive as you mentioned, is that some of these people were using dating apps for a quick fling. And I was using dating apps as a romantic thing to find people to spend time with. And it took me a while to realize that I needed to set that boundary in the beginning. So I will be very clear and say I insist that I be treated with dignity. If you'd like to see me, we need to Skype or FaceTime first. Like I had to really set up this big checklist first because I was saying yes to anyone who was interested because I was so excited that they were interested in me. And that's just not practical anymore.
I was just thinking when you were saying that, talking to people now, and I'm talking about people sort of 40 plus, are finding it really hard to make friendships at 40 plus. Never mind about trying to find a romantic partner. I mean, that just takes it to a whole new level. Whether social media has made life more difficult in that respect, or whether it's we're just all so busy that we're running here and running there and haven't got the time to go to the traditional routes of sort of meeting people, I don't know. But a lot of my friends of sort of 40 plus are saying, where do you meet friends? You know, you've come out of a relationship, or maybe your children don't need you as much. Yeah, I fancy going out with the girls for a coffee or for lunch. How do I meet people of my age? So yeah.
It's stressful and difficult, but I will say this, that I have made friends through dating apps as well. So if a date doesn't work out and I find someone interesting and they're a cool person, but we're not interested romantically, we'll keep in touch. We were talking about having COVID recently and how I had COVID over the holidays. And the people who were bringing me things and leaving food on my porch and medicine and masks were all people I met on dating apps who I wasn't actually dating. Right? I was so taken aback and blown away that I had gifts and cards from several people that I had met on dating apps who we had decided there was no romantic interest there, but we wanted to be friends. So I can see that as well. And especially, I'm in my mid 30s and I have a personality in which people just gravitate towards me. So it's a little easier for me to make friends out in the wild. I'm kind of known for picking up stragglers. It's just people I meet on the street, actually. If you look interesting, I'm going to come talk to you. And I think that's the same approach that I'm taking with dating, because it's difficult on a dating app to really know someone. And I'm just swiping and saying, am I physically attracted? Is their profile interesting? Okay. And there's more to it than that. I want to see how someone talks about something they're excited about. I want to see what they do in their free time. And I saw something on TikTok recently that said, what's keeping you single is your antisocialness. And I laugh so hard because I enjoy my home a lot. I like being at home. I like being alone. I actually am at peace by myself. And that's okay with me. I think I've accepted, I've come to a point in my life that these dating apps and social media, it's very overwhelming. And it's not high quality, I think, the type of interactions that we're having on dating apps.
And so let's have a look at some of these stories then. Okay, let's start with some of the good ones. Let's talk about some of the good dates you've been out on.
You know, no one's ever asked me that. I haven't thought about good dates. Oh, I will say my first date with my ex-fiance, he's now an ex, but I can never deny that our first date was really fun. So we met on an app called Bumble, where the women message first. It's designed for women to have more control. Whereas on Tinder, if I match with someone, they can send me messages, and the messages are sometimes they're pictures and they're graphic and it's exhausting. Whereas on Bumble, I have a little bit more control over who I can have a conversation with. So my dogs are named Henry Kissinger and Robert McNamara. It is meant to be a joke. It's not very funny, especially because I live in Washington, D.C. I call them my dogs of war. And in my profile, I said my dogs are named after war criminals. And he was the first person who messaged me and said, "Why did you name your dogs after war criminals?" And so it was an interesting conversation. We met for drinks. The drinks turned into a party. He was going to a house show. A band was playing at a friend's house. So I went to the house show and I met a bunch of his friends. This is all a first date, and I'm meeting several people. And I was having so much fun. And then we went to another bar and we just had so much fun. And then I went home and I just thought, that was actually fun. Regardless of whether or not I like this person, I can definitely say I had a good time. So we continued dating, and I just ended up having so much fun with him. But it's rare that I look back and say I had a great date with someone. I wonder if dating has kind of devolved into I'm not really sure how I would characterize a good date at this stage.
I mean, Ansa, can I just ask you, I mean, if you are going on a first date with somebody, do you arrange to meet at a bar for a drink? Do you arrange to go for a coffee? So if it goes horribly wrong, you have one coffee, 30 minutes, decide it's a complete disaster, slap your money on the table and go, great, sorry, it's just not going to work. Have a nice life.
You have so much more faith in me than I do in myself. Because at this stage, and I've been on and off dating apps for years now, and my friends would say, "Why don't you do that? Why haven't I learned my lesson?" I was told that if you're going on a first date, this is in the very beginning when I was still quite naive, that you should pick your favorite restaurant or pick a place you've always wanted to go and ask to go there, because it's two birds, one stone. There's this bar I've always wanted to go to, so we're going to this bar, especially if they're going to pay, and which that's a different story. So what I was doing was I had a spreadsheet of all of the people I was dating.
And so I love you. I'm a spreadsheet person as well. I love that. Yeah. Get yourself a spreadsheet.
And because I was dating so many people at once and I was trying to keep it straight, I was calling people by the wrong names. And so what I ended up doing is I picked one restaurant that is a good go-to, one outfit that was a good go-to, and I wore the exact same outfit to the exact same restaurant for every first date. 1 week I had 8 dates. I was so exhausted. And that restaurant would greet me, "Oh, hello, Ansa," and I would get my usual. And so what I do now on a first date is I like to just go to my favorite bar, which is around the corner from my old favorite bar. And it's near my house. I can exit easily. And I go there for a drink. And that is the goal. I would love to say I could get coffee for 30 minutes, but I'm so bad at getting it out. I had the last date I had lasted 10 hours. It was awful the whole time. And I didn't know how to say, "I don't want to be here anymore."
Oh my God,
And I was at
Ansa.
my favorite bar. And it was somebody I knew personally, so I thought would be better. So we did start I have a nice backyard patio. So we started with drinks in my backyard, and then we went out because I didn't want to. The sun was going down and I didn't want someone in my house at night. So at my favorite bar, that's where I ask the bartenders, how do you think it's going? They know me well enough to say, we don't like this man for you. And so they were saying, this guy is a blowhard. This guy is a jerk. And finally the bar closed. And that's how the date ended. Is I said, okay, well, it's 1:00 in the morning and I think I should go home. And so I went home.
Well, I love the fact that the bartenders are team Ansa. I love that. They're going to keep an eye on you. They're going to look for any signals that, you know, you're feeling uncomfortable. So love that idea. Yes. Not sure, Ansa, whether starting the day on your terrace is a good idea.
Yes, this is something that I have decided that, because it's often that a man will say, well, why don't you just come over? No, it's dangerous. The only reason I did this is because this is someone I've known for a long time, but we had decided maybe to try a date, and I realized I don't really know this person very well. If this is what dating this person is, no, thank you. And so he went his way and I went my way. He did ask me out again, and I politely declined. But I have way more bad dating stories. Up until very recently, I was still a little naive, in that I just thought, oh, well, this person seems fun. Let's go have fun. When in reality, I needed to be a little bit more calculating with my time. So, for example, I flew to Iceland recently with a friend last fall for a girls' trip. I was traveling a lot last year as safely as I could. And Iceland has excellent COVID protocols and seemed like a safe place to go. So we went to Iceland for a week, and my friend was delayed. She was flying from New York and I was flying from DC. And so I had one night alone in Iceland. And I love Tinder outside of the US because I feel like, especially in Europe, I have a lot more fun. I think that it's because I changed my profile to say I am only in town for 2 nights. And so the people are more quick to ask me out, set up a date, you know, and show me around. And I'll say, I'm looking for someone to show me around. I had a blast in Ireland with a new friend that I made on Tinder, a man who was very fun, and he took me on a tour, and it was platonic and fun. So I tend to do that when I travel, especially around Europe. And this man was really fun. We met at a bar near my hotel, but I didn't want him to know where my hotel was for safety reasons, of course. So I walked to this bar, met him there. We had some beers, and he was so fun. And he was a pilot, and he just seemed like this amazing man. And, you know, the night did end up in my hotel, but I told him my friend is coming we had separate rooms, but my friend is coming here and I'm planning to spend the week with her. So it was very nice to meet you. And we'll see each other some other time. So we continued chatting throughout the week while I was with my friend. And when I came back to the US, we continued chatting. And he said, oh, it'd be so lovely to see you again. And I said, yes, that was actually a very fun date that I had with you. So let's see each other again. Are you free this weekend? And he said, I'm actually free today. So I thought he was serious. He might have been joking, but I decided that I was going to be in some rom-com, and I bought a plane ticket that day. And I left 2 hours later back to Iceland. Your face is telling me everything.
Yeah, I have to say, I can feel my jaw has dropped. Okay, keep going, Ansa, keep going.
And I told almost no one. I'm not so naive that I don't need to be safe. So what I did was, I have dogs, and so I bought my plane ticket that left in 2 hours. I put my dogs in daycare, I packed a bag, and I booked an Airbnb, and I sent an email to my mother and my sister, who I'm very close to, and said, here is his full name, his picture, his phone number. Here's where I'll be staying. Here's everything, just for safety reasons. I send a if I'm killed email to my family because I watch enough true crime and I travel often enough alone or with friends that if I'm killed, it will be solved very quickly. So from the plane, I emailed and my friends. And I said, remember that very handsome man that I met in Iceland? I'm going to see him right now. And they all said, well, that's crazy Ansa again. Nobody was surprised. So I met him, and it was really fun the first day. It was interesting. We saw each other in the evening because he didn't have money to spend during the day. Now, this is where my naivete kind of came in. I realized I actually don't know this person at all. I went on one date with him, and I romanticized this whole, I was going to be Julia Roberts or someone in a rom-com and fly to love. In the end, he was jobless and homeless, and he was crashing on a friend's couch. And he was jobless because he had refused to take the COVID-19 vaccine. I was learning all of this in real time as I was face to face with him. And we ended up having a bit of an argument because I think I was realizing in real time that my standards were way too low, that I was kind of romanticizing dating a bit much. And in real time, I was face to face with someone who I didn't want to be on a date with anymore. So what do I do when that happens? And I told him, I didn't realize all of these things. And he ended up using a racial slur. And I just sat down and I stopped speaking. Now, at this point, we were both naked. We were having an argument naked, which to me is funny, but also for safety reasons, I stopped speaking because I don't know if I'm in danger, or actually I box and I power lift. So he might have been in danger with me. So I just sat very quietly and I let him ramble on about guns and vaccines. It was awful. And he put his clothes on and he stormed out, and I shut the door and I locked it. And there were several security codes between me and the front on purpose for safety. So he couldn't have come back if he wanted to. And I just started laughing. And I thought, this is the moment where I stop being so cavalier about dating. This had to happen for me to realize that it's more serious than I'm making it. I need to be more selective about who I spend my time with, how I spend my money. I had more money than sense to hop on a plane to Iceland on the same day for fun. And I've never looked back. That was back in October. And every date that I've had since, yes, they've gone on longer, but I've decided I'm not going home with them if I don't want to, which should be a given, but it wasn't for me as a newly dating adult. I'm not going to go on a second date if I don't want to. So that had to happen for me, unfortunately. But I feel so free of these men who kind of draw me in with their charm and then turn out to be flops.
Ansa, it seems as if you had to go on this journey, and I think the final part of this journey was meeting this man in Iceland, and it could have gone horribly, horribly, horribly wrong on so many levels. However, I think you got to the point and said, right, okay, I'm now drawing a line under this. This is my new plan of attack. I'm not going to go home with them. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do that. You seem to have a strategy now, which makes me feel a lot happier because you are just gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Seeing why people gravitate to you, I do as well. And I would just sitting here thinking, Ansa, no, 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 no. So I'm so glad that you didn't come to any harm, thank God. But you've now said, okay, I've got a new strategy. So Ansa, what is your strategy from now on? I hope you've still got a spreadsheet.
Well, when it turns out when you raise your standards, you have way fewer dates. So I'm not dating as often as I was in previous years because I think my standards are way too high. No man actually meets them. He doesn't exist. And I've realized that back when men were competing with each other for me, I had to choose the best of the worst. And the best of the worst is still bad. So now men are competing with my single life. I live a full life of friends, family, travel. I'm happy. I own my own home. I work for myself, making more than enough money. And a man really has to be great to be better than no man. And so I'm not dating as often, and my strategy is to be extremely selective. If a man is going to come into my space, he's got to be amazing. It's funny because I appreciate you telling me that I'm gorgeous. I do hear that. It's that I'm using fat as a neutral term, as a fat Black woman, I didn't always feel gorgeous. And I don't see a lot of people in the media who look like me, who are, like I said in the beginning, who are dating and fun and flirty. They're usually a sidekick or a joke. And I kind of internalized that and had decided that I'm lucky if anyone wants to date me. And now that I realize I'm a gorgeous person who has a lot to offer, they're lucky if they get to date me. So my dating days have slowed down quite dramatically since I've realized that I'm actually a catch.
I think there's several points there, Ansa. I mean, I think, first of all, not lowering our standards. I mean, I think there's two things. We can sort of say, okay, I'm looking for a tall, dark, handsome man, this income, these activities, this profession, etc., etc. Which is one thing. And I always think, when you've got a shopping list of particularly what somebody should look like, what they earn, what car, where they live, I think, you're on a bit of a hide into nowhere, because at the end of the day, it's what that person is like inside. What are their values? What do they want to do in life? What do they want out of life? What do they want from a partner? So I think that there's the big thing there. But I think I've always sort of thought I would never want to be with somebody where I felt I wasn't wanted and valued. I mean, this is sort of experience before I met my husband. And just for the record, meeting people, I met my husband and he is absolutely perfect for me. And we met when we were in a hospital because both of our fathers were dying.
Oh my goodness.
So whenever I have a conversation with people about I can't find anybody, I said, look, so many stars had to align to bring us together during this particular time for us to meet is just phenomenal. And I'm a big believer in fate, but I just think when the time is ready, when you are ready, and I always say, whenever you've just run out to put something in the bin, you just put your joggers on, you haven't combed your hair and you just meet the perfect man. And so many times this has happened to friends. Mm-hmm. So I always think when you take the pressure off, he will appear. And I really believe that. This conversation is about you. It's not about me. But I just want you to know that story, Ansa, because if I can meet the man who is absolutely perfect for me under those circumstances, anybody can.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And I sometimes think some people just push too hard. And I think when you're pushing too hard, it's just no, because maybe you're pushing in the wrong direction.
The stars do need to align for it to work. And I think that's a lovely way to think about things. And it's why, going back to dating apps, I think that they kind of force us to have this very narrow vision and to be tied to certain outcomes. And I realized that when I'm swiping through dating apps and I'm just saying, oh, this person looks interesting and that person looks interesting, I have a kind of better time than I do if I say I am looking for someone in this very narrow range who makes this much money and all of that, like you said. And when I really start to judge people by their values, because I do believe our values need to align, especially in the US where politics are very divisive, I would prefer someone who aligns with my political values. And so things like that have kind of made it easier for me to step back and say, oh, well, so what if I don't have a date for a while? Because it'll happen if that's what I want. But I'm also very content. I think this is necessary in dating with no outcome. I said recently to friends that as a brand strategist, I counsel my clients and they want to say, our product has to be the best, our product has to be the top. And I have to remind them that sometimes your product is not competing with another product on the market. It is competing with the option to buy nothing. So women, for me, as a woman who is in heterosexual relationships, and once I decided that men were no longer competing with each other, they're competing with me and my life and how good my life is, I started to say, oh, this person looks like they can enhance my life. This person looks like they can add some fun to my life. And if they don't, then that's okay. It's totally okay if it's just me and my dogs watching TV or going to my favorite places and traveling. I live a very rich, full life when I started to deprioritize dating apps.
I think another thing I'd like to cover with you, though, Ansa, is, you've got a lot going on in your life, lots of different interests, you've got a huge group of friends, etc. You're not sitting at home bored. And I think when we have this sense of and feeling of contentment in our lives, I think we sort of give off this, actually, I'm quite content with what I'm doing. I'm, got a good circle of friends, a good social life and everything. And I think when you're giving off that vibe that you are happy in your own skin, it's almost as if I think an aura comes around you. And I've seen this happen before. And then all of a sudden, it's like bees around a honeypot, or whatever the expression is. I'm okay with who I am. I'm okay with my life. I'm okay with my situation. And all of a sudden, that attractiveness seems to just give off an aura to people.
Yes, I fully believe that. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I think that's why, ironically, why my last relationship ended. Because that person, my ex-fiance, was very desperate for, in his words, a wife and children. He really wanted that. And he was so upset that he was reaching his 40s without a wife and children. And he had this big concept of what life was supposed to be. And here I was, just living my life, having a good time. When I met him, I was dating 5 other men. I did have a spreadsheet still. And when I met him, I think, and he had verbalized this, but in my words, what attracted him to me was that I was very content and happy and fine. And when in the breakup, as I was processing what happened, how did I let this go on so long and so far, it was that I was too healthy for him. I am very secure in who I am. I'm very happy with my life. I'm very content. And the relationship got into some narcissism and gaslighting. And as a very proud person, it took me a long time to recognize that I was being manipulated. He was trying to kind of knock me down a peg. I was too secure. I was too happy. And he was trying to convince me of things that just weren't true about myself. So when we broke up, I got over it like that. And people said, you just called off a wedding. I called off my wedding that was supposed to be a year ago. And they said, how do you feel? And I said, oh, I'm fine. I didn't want to get married, so I called off the wedding. And I'm totally content with that. And people were baffled that I wasn't distraught or destroyed. And I just said, it's more important to me to be happy than it is to be in a relationship. It's more important to me to be content than it is to be married with children. And once that realization occurred to me, the weight was lifted, and I smile all the time. I have a very bubbly personality, I'm told. And I'm always out and about, and I'm always performing somewhere. I'm just busy traveling. And I'm hoping that if a man comes along and sees that he appreciates that about me, as opposed to being jealous or upset or trying to bring me down, that he just recognizes that and says, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of whatever she's doing. That's fun. Let's do that.
I think one thing I was thinking there, Ansa, was you were not happy for someone to dim your sparkle or dim your light. You could see what was happening. He was trying to put you down, and you thought, hang on a sec, that's not my real personality. And you took that monumentous decision to say, no, that's it, the relationship's over, cancelling the wedding, which was huge. But no one's dimming my light. This is who I am.
Exactly. There was a lot of times where, I'm an athletic person, And I've played sports growing up. Like I said, I box, I lift weights. I played roller derby for a long time. I'm just an athletic person, and I'm a big person who's just always been athletic. And this man was telling me that he really wished he had a more athletic partner, but he was not athletic in any way. But I'm thinking, wait a second, I go to the gym multiple times a week. I'm riding my bike to work. And what it was that I'm very secure in who I am. I'm an athletic person, and he was jealous, or so it came across as that way. And instead of joining me in these activities, he was trying to bring me down and say, you should be more athletic. You know, you're a big person. Have you considered losing weight? All of these things. And I would hear it and I would say, oh, well, okay, maybe I should do more. Maybe. And eventually I just said, actually, absolutely not. This man is trying to tell me I'm someone who I am not. And that's no way to live. It's just no way to live. It's hard to be around people who are insecure in that way. And everyone has insecurities. I do, of course. But my insecurities, I would hope, do not impact the people around me in such a negative way. And he was stunned. And he said, you're really going to call off the wedding because you think I'm abusive? And I said, yes. Yes, I am. We lost some money. And this house, we bought it together, and I refinanced and took his name off of the mortgage and the deed, and said, please come pick up your things. And now I'm a homeowner and I'm a business owner. I live my life very, very well. And he was so stunned that I would do something that big. And I just said, I've been married before. And that was a 10-year relationship in which we were both too young to be married. And we agreed, when we broke up. And I'm still too young to settle. I'm still too young to settle. And so no, thank you. Good luck. I've realized I'm much better at letting go of these types of relationships.
So he was basically channeling his insecurities onto you to make you doubt yourself.
Yes. It went on. I mean, there are so many examples of times where I would say, I really didn't like how you spoke to me. And he would say, well, that's how people speak to people in relationships. You just don't know because you've only been in one serious relationship. And I would say, oh, okay, maybe he's right. And then I would say again, hey, I really don't like that you don't help around the house because we're two adults. And he said, oh, no, you just don't know that, I'm not very good at that. So why don't you do that? And it's okay. I mean, I guess he's right. I am better at this. And it got to the point where I paused and I told myself, is this how I want to live for the rest of my life? And the answer was no. And it's easier to change the man than it is to change the man. So I could find another partner who is a better match, or I could spend the rest of my life trying to change this person into becoming a better partner for me. And I don't think that was fair to either of us. And he tried to the very end to convince me this is normal. This is what relationships are like. Because keep in mind, this was my second serious relationship in my life. And so I don't have a lot of experience with long-term serious relationships. And he used that to his advantage to gaslight me and manipulate me into staying. And I just said, my favorite thing to say towards the end was, I'm too pretty for this.
I love that. You are too pretty. Absolutely. Inside, outside, every way.
Exactly.
I think you have had a lot of experiences that have taught you an awful lot of things. I think you're a very organized woman. You know now what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable. And you are very settled in your life. You're happy where you're living. You're happy with your activities, your friends, your home, your work. Ansa, I think he's just going to drop down out of the sky at your pretty little feet.
Maybe. And he's going to have to be kissing my feet because I am a presence. And he's going to have to be a phenomenal human being. And in reality, I'm looking for someone to complement and enhance my life, not make it more difficult. Older generations of women had to settle for many reasons. In my last relationship, I was told relationships are compromise. Relationships are hard. Marriage is hard. And I don't believe it anymore. I'm not saying that life should be easy all the time, but it should not be hard most of the time. And I don't want a relationship if it's going to be a burden on me, if it's going to mean compromising myself, my soul, my values. And so someone has to come along and they have to be complementary. They have to be enhancing. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And it's funny that you recognize this shift. I've recognized the shift in myself is that I have ended 3 relationships recently with people who were so gorgeous. They were probably the most handsome men I've ever seen in my life. And I was shocked. They wanted to be with me, but their communication was inconsistent. They would disappear for weeks on end. The sex wouldn't be good. And instead of saying, well, I'm just so lucky that this tall, handsome German man with a 6-pack wants to be with me, I just texted him and said, I don't have time for this. So I'm going to back up from this. You let me know when you have more time for me. Thank you. And I never heard from him again. And it's the same with the other 2 men. I just said, you're inconsistent and I don't have the energy to deal with you. So you let me know when you're ready to meet me at my level. And I never heard from them again. And I was okay with it. And it's a revelation. Even the most handsome men really can't get in. They have to be good.
I think the thing is, Ansa, I mean, you are an incredible woman. Don't ever let anyone dim your sparkle and dim your light. Absolutely do not allow that. You will find the right person for you. And I really believe you've had so many experiences and you've learned lessons. You know yourself better now than ever before. Don't ever let anyone dim your light or dim that sparkle, which you so clearly have. And I can so see why people just generate to you. Absolutely. I feel you are the friend that I would have known for years and years and years. So I can see your sparkle and your light. Absolutely. Ansa, it's been a fascinating conversation. Your honesty, thank you so much for being so honest about your journey. And just don't let anyone dim that sparkle.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I know that I've talked a lot about ups and downs in dating, and I will end by saying that the dating apps are what you make of them. And so if they're going to be getting unsolicited pictures at 8 o'clock in the morning, which I still get for some reason, or they're going to be really fun people, it's my standards that had to be high to make dating apps work.
And so you keep those standards high. Do not let anyone dim your light. And I believe when you least expect it, he will just drop in front of you. And so thank you so much for your time and your stories. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe on whatever platform you are using. It is free, and if you would like to tell your story, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story.